7 Habits of Mentally Tough People. If athletes, entrepreneurs, and first responders learn to develop mental toughness for their roles, it is clear that this is something one can nurture and practice. Practice, as it does for musicians, can make even the most difficult things feel like second nature, and people who show grit, determination, and a positive outlook in all aspects of their lives tend to share 7 basic qualities or habits of mental toughness that anyone can practice. First, they recognize their limited ability to influence issues beyond their control. That means they stop dwelling on unsolvable problems and they disengage from anxiety and uncertainty to focus their efforts where they can have real impact. Next, mentally tough folks are flexible when surprises crop up. They adapt plans rather than getting paralyzed by change. They train to be mentally agile enough to handle life's curveballs, like unexpected traffic jams or canceled flights. Third, strong self-awareness powers mentally tough people's confidence. By knowing their strengths and their flaws, they can better control their emotions, handle stress, and stay resilient. Fourth, mentally tough folks don't let uncertainty deter them. They know plans might fail and goals may not be met, and they act anyway. Tough experiences build this willingness, so they don't back away from a challenge either. For those practicing resilience, disappointments are seen as opportunities. Failures reveal what's not working so they can improve. It's as simple as that. This mindset is the 5th habit of mentally tough people and helps them bounce back faster and better. Plus, they don't suffer quite so much along the way. 6th, negative emotions like anger and frustration are mastered rather than allowed to escalate in mentally tough folks. That means feeling emotional responses as they are, but not letting them run the show. Mastery comes from developing the emotional intelligence to self-regulate. And the 7th habit of resilient and mentally tough people is that they let practical optimism lift their attitude. They focus on hope. They don't dwell in gloom. Cautious optimism sees chances amid disasters and can snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. And don't fool yourself. No one is born tough. The good news is that we can build mental muscle by incorporating these 7 habits to improve the outcome whenever disaster strikes, while developing the grit and determination to perform under pressure. A startup founder who is flexible when a product launches badly will adapt plans to improve the product instead of indulging in self-criticism or shifting blame. She adapts, and business improves. Or imagine a high-performing athlete who disengages from the sports scandal she can't control. Her improved mental focus can give her a powerful competitive edge. And a laid-off worker who sees unemployed time as a chance to acquire or improve skills will spend far less time feeling overwhelmed or self-critical. So practicing these habits can make all the difference when the unforeseen comes calling. But what happens when mental toughness isn't in the mix? That's what we'll tackle next. The enemies of mental toughness. In addition to practicing these 7 habits, developing mental toughness also means confronting the habits that undermine it. Knowing these adversaries is the key to overcoming them. The first enemy of resilience and mental toughness is self-pity, which drains the energy needed for perseverance by focusing on problems. Along with self-pity, self-doubt breeds inaction and distracts from boosting resilience. Next, a severe inner critic that harps on perceived faults, undercutting confidence, is a real enemy of mental toughness. Silencing this nagging voice is essential. Fear is another key enemy that distorts reality and makes everything feel like an impending catastrophe. It erodes the very resolve you need most when challenges arise. Laziness also makes it harder to dig deep and push through adversity. It creeps in slowly, too. To develop mental resistance in all aspects of life, it is vital to guard against early lapses in dedication or perseverance that can multiply, creating a cascade. Perfectionism is another tendency that sabotages action, because anything less than perfect feels unacceptable to perfectionists. This cripples progress in the pursuit of perfection, which is doomed to fail. Losing control over emotions like anger and sadness can also drown a person in a sea of negativity. Learning to regulate and maintain emotions through positive reinforcement and habits keeps them from making obstacles seem worse than they are. Further, self-limiting beliefs highlight someone's presumed personal deficits, undermining confidence in their abilities. Challenging negative beliefs and self-talk whenever they arise is critical. We must overcome these false notions so they don't perpetuate negativity. Battling these enemies requires introspection, patience, and the steady application of new strategies, but the payoff comes in developing priceless mental muscle. So let's explore some examples to illustrate how these enemies operate. The inner critic of an aspiring musician might attack her abilities, undercutting her motivation to practice and improve. This lack of practice makes it harder to master the music she loves, and instead of being resilient in the face of difficulty, she stops playing. Self-pity can make a struggling entrepreneur focus on how slow business is rather than on ways to improve. If he could look past his poor me attitude, he might see that trying a new marketing strategy is the trick to improving sluggish sales. A perfectionist writer might put off submitting a work, paralyzed by the thought that it's not flawless. Unchecked, this self-induced writer's block can stop a promising career in its tracks. Similarly, a fearful public speaker could exaggerate the chances of embarrassing herself and go on to actually embarrass herself as a result. Laziness might trap a student in procrastination rather than pushing him to study hard projects, leading to delayed graduation or even dropping out. But in recognizing enemy attacks like these, it is possible to fight back and turn every enemy of resilience into a practice that builds your mental toughness. Building blocks of mental toughness. Resilience. This is a good moment to consider the difference between resilience and mental toughness, which can often feel interchangeable. While resilience means bouncing back from problems and adapting to circumstances, mental toughness is about maintaining a positive mindset throughout. In other words, resilient people may grudgingly handle traffic jams with a modicum of grace, but the mentally tough person views them as a welcome chance to enjoy listening to an audiobook. In building mental toughness, mastering emotions in the face of difficulty is absolutely critical. Emotional intelligence helps people perform effectively despite even the most severe stresses and setbacks. Self-awareness helps you recognize feelings so you can control fear and stress and respond with purpose. To master your emotions, know yourself and your thoughts and values. Empathy, too, builds resilience by letting you imagine other circumstances. You can gain insight into handling adversity from others when you can understand what they're going through. Emotional control means acknowledging feelings and not repressing them, so that you can assess whether your emotions are reasonable given the situation. Some tactics you can use for mastering emotions include reflecting on them, even meditating deeply on them. No emotion is wrong. It just can't help you make rational decisions about what to do next. You should scrupulously confront your inner critic along the way too, so you can take action despite uncertainty and develop patience with yourself. For example, an athlete could use empathy to understand a teammate's frustration and not get caught up in it, potentially blowing the game. A teacher might meditate to better observe emotions in students without judgment. This could lead to greater insights into how to best calm outbursts or disruptions. By exerting emotional control, you can also push past obstacles. Anger can be channeled into focus, determination, or drive. Anxiety can fuel research, knowledge gathering, and preparations. Setbacks can spark growth if you can look at them clearly, not through a haze of negative emotions. Catastrophic thinking envisions worst-case scenarios, and this mindset hampers bold adaptation to any circumstance. Reframe setbacks as challenges and see how even failure can be embraced. Rather than hiding failures, it is possible to harness them as feedback for improvement. This allows anyone to respond to failures or mistakes with purpose, not shame. The resulting confidence reduces anxiety about problems too. So, resilience helps you recover from difficulties, but toughness keeps your mindset upbeat. Adjusting your relationship with failure builds the fortitude needed to turn challenges into opportunities. Mastering emotions requires resilience to bounce back and mental toughness to see the upside in any downturn. With both traits, you can perform under pressure and thrive. Quieting the inner critic. The inner critic whispers doubts that can paralyze action, making mental toughness impossible and resilience a faint hope. Learning to silence this voice is pivotal for mental toughness. Signs of your inner critic going unchecked include catastrophic thinking, internal guilt trips, exaggeration of failures, and minimizing of success, along with harsh performance standards and grim future predictions. To counter the inner critic, it's important to scrutinize negative thoughts when they arise and seek out a more rational response to the criticisms they contain. It's important to respond rationally to overgeneralizations in particular. That means not feeling that things are always bad or a total disaster. Virtually any situation has an upside. A simple exercise that you can do regularly to help identify this inner critic is taking a moment to write down 10 examples of your inner negativity from the past week. In other words, go over situations in which you had negative thoughts about yourself or the situation and write those thoughts down. Once you have your list, take a few minutes to write down reasonable responses to dispute each negative thought. It might help to ask yourself what you'd say to a friend who told you that they had this negative thought. Chances are, you're far more positive with others than with yourself. Just making a list like this weekly can train your mind to recognize and refute the inner critic's dubious claims automatically. Even transform the inner critic into an inner coach or counselor. Say, for instance, your critic says, "You'll never get that promotion." You could counter with, "If I work hard and exceed my monthly targets, I have a good shot." The key is learning to spot your inner critic subtly dragging down your confidence. Once recognized, you can silence the voice and maintain the mental toughness needed to tune out naysayers. Mental toughness training, the Navy SEALs way. If anyone has to practice mental toughness regularly, it's Navy SEALs. These highly trained specialists operate in the most dangerous arenas, complete the most risky missions, and have to do it all with creativity and resilience. The training of Navy SEALs provides many transferable lessons for developing mental toughness, particularly in mastering fear. Despite the physical rigors, the focus in SEAL training is actually more on strengthening psychological fitness than physical fitness. Like anyone, SEALs experience fear when confronting extreme situations, but they learn tactics to regulate these emotions and maintain control. This allows them to carry out missions effectively, even when feeling afraid. Some of the specific training techniques SEALs employ that anyone can apply in everyday life include using positive self-talk to stay calm under stress, like during underwater equipment failure drills. Panicking only makes the situation worse, so SEALs practice facing the situation regularly to ease fear. Furthermore, SEALs continue to hone skills even after they've mastered them. Since SEALs face downtime between deployments, these practices have to be kept up even in their personal lives, and this has an impact on their success that others can harness as well. For example, authors can write daily between books to stay sharp. Dancers rehearse between shows to keep choreography fresh and stamina high. Take another tip from the SEALs by segmenting big goals into small milestones to create small motivational wins. Breaking intimidating projects down into bite-sized daily tasks keeps them from becoming overwhelming. Visualizing the desired outcome of a challenging undertaking as if it is already accomplished is another great tip. If you mentally picture giving a flawless presentation, it is more likely to happen. Actually anticipating potential problems with any plan can diminish worry too. For a speech, imagine how you'd respond to equipment failure, forgotten notes, or tough questions. SEAL training proves that formidable mental strength can be cultivated through continuous practice, and anyone can appropriate their methods to better regulate emotions, silence inner critics that undermine confidence, and perform under pressure. A manager can practice positive self-talk to remain analytical when conditions at work get chaotic and stressful. A musician might visualize perfect execution to improve performance when anxious. A planner could anticipate contingencies like weather or distracted attendees that might jeopardize an event, then devise some plan Bs to minimize worry. All of them can benefit from segmenting huge work projects into smaller daily goals that creates a sense of progress. The key takeaway is that cultivating an impervious mentality takes training above and beyond physical conditioning. By appropriating SEAL's military-grade mental conditioning techniques, we can also learn to expertly manage emotions, dismiss critics, and adapt when times get tough.